By the ships the other lords of Achaea's armies slept all night long, overcome by gentle sleep, but not the great field marshal Agamemnon. The noble horseman opened with his plan. "My friends, isn't there one among us here? He'd infiltrate these overreaching Trojans." Diomedes, lord of the war cry, spoke up briskly. "Agamemnon, the mission stirs my fighting blood. I'll pick Royal Odysseus here." On that note, both men harnessed up in the grim gear of war. Over his head, Odysseus set a helmet made of leather, outside the gleaming teeth of a white-tusked boar. Over his head, Diomedes set a helmet, bull's hide, bare of ridge and crest, a skull cap, so it's called. And so both harnessed up in the grim gear of war. The two men moved out. But no sleep for the headstrong Trojans either. There was a man among the troops, one Dolon. No feast for the eyes, but lightning on his feet.
On his back he wore the pelt of a gray wolf. On his head a cap of weasel skin.
"Hector, the mission stirs my fighting blood. I'll reconnoiter the ships and gather all I can. I will be your spy." Putting the mass of horsemen behind him, Dolon picked up speed, hot for action now. But keen as a god, Odysseus saw him coming and alerted Diomedes. Swerving off the trail, they both raced after Dolon. And Dolon, hearing their tread, quick as a flash, he sprang, fleeing for dear life. They sprang in pursuit as a pair of rip-toothed hounds bred for the hunt. Odysseus, raider of cities, and Diomedes cut him off from his own lines. "Stop, or I'll run you through! You'll never escape my spear!" Dolon was terrified, stammering, teeth chattering in his mouth. He burst into tears, pleading, "Take me alive! I'll ransom myself!" Odysseus, quick with tactics, answered, "Courage! Death is your last worry." Dolon answered, his legs shaking under him. Yes, I'll tell you everything down to the last detail. Everything, anything, whatever will satisfy you. To seaward, Carians, Paeonian men with bent bows, Legales and Cauconians, crack Pelasgians inland toward Thimbra, camp the Lycians. There, now, will you take me to your ships or leave me here? But rugged Odysseus gave him a grim look. "Escape? Take my advice and wipe it from your mind. Good as your message is, you're in my hands now." With that, Diomedes struck him square across the neck, a flashing hack of the sword, both tendons snapped, and the shrieking head went tumbling in the dust.
Thus spirits were lifted in the camp of the Achaeans, and old Nestor sat among the heroes, he, the man of winning words, the clear speaker of Pylos. Sweeter than honey from his tongue the voice flowed on and on and on. "Listen to Nestor, you are younger than I, and in my time I struck up with better men than you, even you, but never once did they make light of me. I've never seen such men, never will again. Men like Pirithous, Dryas, that fine captain, Chanius, Exadius, Polyphemus, Theseus, Aegeus's boy, a match for the immortals." And in their midst the grand glowing cup the old king brought from home. An average man would strain to lift it off the table when it was full, but Nestor, old as he was, could hoist it up with ease. Nestor, the noble charioteer, went on at length. "Would that I were still young and strong, as when the Achaeans were burying King Amyrinus in Buprasium, and his sons offered prizes in his honor. There was none then that could vie with me, neither of the Epeans, nor the Pylians themselves, nor the Aetolians. So such was I in the ranks of men. Or was it all a dream?
Now, as the dawn flung out her golden robe across the earth, Father Zeus held out his sacred scales. In them he placed two fates of death that lays men low, and down went Achaea's day of doom, and Zeus let loose a huge crash of thunder from Iliad. Now the armies clashed at one strategic point. They slammed their shields together, pike scraped pike with the grappling strength of fighters armed in bronze, and their round shields' bosses pounded hide to hide, fighters killing, fighters killed, and the ground streamed blood. Paris hacked Eucamor between the eyes, and the bone cracked, blood sprayed, and both eyes dropped at his feet to mix in the dust. He curled and crashed. Deiparus hacked off the head of Helenus and sent it rolling at his feet. The giant Ajax slew Epicles, crushing the bones of his head to pieces. Diomedes struck Polydamas where the head springs from the neck, severing both tendons. His head reached the ground long before his legs did. Hypsiner killed Eurypylus, hacking at his arm with his sword. The bloody hand fell to the ground. So all day long for the men of war, the fighting raged, grim, grueling, relentless.
Back in the camp of the Achaeans, Patroclus begged Achilles for help. At least send me into battle, quickly, and give me your own fine armor to buckle on my back, so the Trojans might take me for you, Achilles. Yes. Enough, answered Achilles. You strap my splendid armor on your back. You lead our battle-hungry Myrmidons into action, but take this command to heart. Once you have whipped the enemy from the fleet, you must come back, Patroclus. You must turn back. But Patroclus did not turn back. He fought all the way to the walls of Troy, and there was Hector. And not only Hector, but Apollo as well. Yes, the Lord Apollo met you there in the heart of battle, slammed his broad shoulders with the god's flat hand, and his eyes spun as Apollo knocked the helmet off his head. He stood there, senseless, and Hector came rushing into him right across the lines and rammed his spear shaft home, stabbing deep in the bowels, and the brazen point went jutting straight out through Patroclus's back. Down he crashed. Horror gripped the Achaean armies.
Meanwhile, at another spot on the battlefield, Diomedes, breaker of stallions, stormed the Trojans. But Ares, wild as a black cyclone, spotted him. The god was just stripping giant Periphas bare. The blood-smeared Ares was tearing off his gear, and he dropped gigantic Periphas on the spot where he'd just killed him, ripped his life away, and Ares whirled at the stallion, breaking Diomedes. Diomedes, for his part, yelled his war cry, lunging out with his own bronze spear, and Pallas rammed it home. And the brazen god of war let loose a shriek, roaring, thundering loud as 10,000 combat soldiers. So brazen Ares soared up with the clouds to the broad sweeping sky, where he took refuge under the arm of Zeus. Down he sat, on Olympus, Ares exultant in the glory of it all, while the mortals struggled on below.
Indeed, Achilles had just heard news of his best friend's death, and now, bursting with rage against the men of Troy, he donned Hephaestus' gifts, magnificent armor the god of fire forged with all his labor.
Then Prince Achilles ranged his ranks of myrmidons, hungry as wolves that rend and bolt raw flesh. They gorge on the kill till all their jaws drip red with blood, belching bloody meat, but the fury, never shaken, builds inside their chests, though their glutted bellies bursts. And there, in the midst, Achilles stood, like the god of war. And Hector, for his part, ready to meet his doom, met Achilles in the no-man's land outside the walls of Troy. Now kill or be killed. Come, we'll swear to the gods, the highest witnesses. The gods will oversee our binding pacts. I swear I will never mutilate you. Swear you'll do the same. A swift dark glance in the headstrong runner answered, Hector, stop. There are no binding oaths between men and lions. As Hector charged in fury, brilliant Achilles drove his spear, and the point went stabbing clean through the tender neck. Death cut him short. The end closed in around him. Flying free of his limbs, his soul went winging down to the house of death, wailing his fate. And now, piercing the tendons, angled to heal behind both feet, he knotted straps of rawhide through them both, lashed them to his chariot, left the head to drag, and mounting the car, he whipped his team to a run, and breakneck on they flew, holding nothing back, and a thick cloud of dust rose up from the man they dragged. And so the Trojans buried Hector, breaker of horses.